Welcome to New Life Live with Stephen Arterburn. For 35 years, New Life has been transforming lives one at a time thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's today's host, Becky Brown.
Well, hello, everyone. I am so glad that you decided to join us, and we are answering calls for the next 2 hours today. You can call us at 1-800-229-3000, and maybe you got a question about a family situation or a relationship, or maybe you're struggling with anxiety or maybe even depression. There are a lot of struggles that we keep to ourselves, and we want, well, share them with us anyway, and maybe we can help your way. And by us, I mean Jim Burns and Marc Cameron. They're joining me today, answering your calls. Hi, Marc. Hi, Jim. And I would love to know, Marc, what is on your mind these days?
What is on my mind? So today I want to talk about our thought life. Our thought life is often where our problems begin. And then we follow these thoughts down rabbit trails and we get lost and then we get stuck. And in 2 Corinthians 10:5, Paul talks about capturing every thought. And analogy that I like to use when it comes to learning how to capture every thought is analogy between how a lion sees things and how a dog sees things. And so if you were to picture a dog in front of you, and if you had a bone and you know, I'm talking about a dog that is a good dog and trained. If you were to wave that bone in front of the dog, what does the dog do? The dog follows the bone with its head back and forth. But if you had that same bone and you held it in front of a lion and you waved that bone in front of the lion doesn't care about the bone. The lion cares about you and will go after you. And so here's the difference between the dog's vision and the lion's vision is that the dog's gaze stops at the bone, but the lion sees beyond the bone. And so how we link that to thoughts is when we get stuck with a thought, whether that's about guilt, shame, fear, sadness, hurt. Oftentimes we get stuck and we ruminate with that thought. But if you can see beyond the thought, if you can label it and say, oh, I'm having this type of thought, then you can take that outside of yourself and you can do something with it and you can choose, what do I do with this thought, and take the power of that thought away from you.
That is so good. And when you're thinking about the idea of thought, I think a lot of it has to do with discipline, what you're talking about. I mean, Paul said to Timothy, discipline yourself for the purpose of godliness. I think we forget about that we can discipline our thought life. We can think through things that really matter to us and have the discipline. I'd like to say it's either the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Mm-hmm. There's going to be pain in life. Mm-hmm. But I really appreciate your comment, Marc, because I honestly think all of us need to be working on our thought life because our mind is so powerful. And yet again, the Bible says, renew your mind. And so how do we learn to renew our minds? And it's actually, I think it's something that it's a learned trait to do.
Mm-hmm. Marc, this is kind of along the lines of metacognition, right? That we are thinking about what we're thinking about and our feelings that are attached to those thoughts, right?
Yeah, correct. Because our thoughts often dictate, the feeling that's going to come up next, right? And then we get overwhelmed by that feeling. And so if we can make the link between thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, oftentimes we can change the way those things connect and free ourselves.
And one of the biggest challenges that we have is to really be aware of our thoughts, our feelings, our behaviors, right? It is a process like none other, because we have to be in community, we have to be looking for that, but we want to encourage you, if you're struggling with something, you may just need to take those next steps just to be aware of, what am I thinking? Where did that thought come from? And where are those feelings connected to those thoughts and behaviors? Yeah. Good job, Marc. I always love thinking about these things, of course. We're going to be back in just a few. We're going to take some calls, 1-800-229-3000, and we'd love to hear what you're thinking and you're feeling about. We'll be right back after this.
Some of the things I was involved with were taking over my life.
In today's world, men are barraged with inappropriate content and images all day, every day. Some say that certain behaviors are just no big deal, they're just part of being a guy. But it's simply not true. It's a battleground for every man, and the opportunities to fail are everywhere. The Everyman's Battle Intensive can help.
After 7 years, he just, in one weekend, came back a completely changed man.
For over 20 years, New Life Ministries has been helping men regain their integrity and purity through their one-of-a-kind Everyman's Battle Intensive.
He said this is something that every man should go to. Married, dating, it was definitely life-changing.
The Everyman's Battle Workshop is being held online as a one-day event Saturday, April 13th. Don't wait for him to call. To find out more, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE or go to newlife.com.
I just can't say enough of what New Life has done for our marriage.
1-800-NEW-LIFE. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
I'm Steve Arterburn with the New Life Moment. Plagued with insomnia, a man spent his early mornings walking along the beach. Each morning, he discovered townspeople collecting starfish that had washed ashore. One sleepless morning, however, he woke up particularly early and found one man throwing starfish back into the ocean. He soon discovered that the star thrower woke every day, rain or shine, to return the dying starfish to their ocean home. Here on the beach, the strong reach down to save, not crush the weak. It might make you wonder, is there a star thrower at work in the universe? A God who contradicts death? A spiritual Father who can restore you when you're washed ashore? I'm Steve Arterburn, and to become better acquainted with the God who rescues the weak, visit newlife.com. And thanks for listening to this New Life Moment.
Well, we always enjoy a New Life moment from Steve. He is still on sabbatical, and we appreciate just that insight. Maybe if you are the strong, you reach down to help and save those who need that lift. And we are there for you if you need something along that thought process, the relationships, whatever you're struggling with, we're here for you. You can call us at 1-800-229-3000. And we are going to go to the calls right now. We are going to talk with Sue, who listens on the internet, calling from Oklahoma City. And hey, Sue, I'm glad you called. How can we help you?
Well, hello. Thank you for taking my call. Just wondering, as a professional, how do I navigate caring for a client who is a trans, from a male to a female? And our staff has asked the other staff, all of us, to accommodate this person. He is a he. I'm aware. I know that's the truth. He is a he. But they have given the staff bathroom, which we only have one restroom in the whole facility, and they have given that restroom to this person, and we've had to just totally make an arrangement for that in the whole facility to accommodate this guy as a girl, because he can't use the male restroom or the female, so they've given the staff restroom to him. And so we're all having to adjust our lifestyle and the way we do things to accommodate this person. And it's interfering in our workspace. We're asked to accommodate in whatever way to make this person feel comfortable while we are uncomfortable. And so, I
was just going to ask that. Yeah. Well, Marc, let's start with you. And Sue, you're a nurse, right? You're in a hospitalization or medical situation. Mm-hmm.
Facility, yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, hi, Sue. I love nurses. I'm actually married to a nurse, so I literally love nurses. And I worked with many nurses, so many nurse friends. So thank you for the work that you do. This is an interesting question. And I mean, we're called to respect everybody, and the reason why we have to respect everybody as Christians is because we all bear the image of the Creator inside of us. And so even when we don't agree with somebody's decisions and actions, we respect their opinions, and we respect them as human beings. because they bear the image like we bear the image. I'm hearing what you're saying here about this being inconvenient, and this is a tricky one because oftentimes love can be very inconvenient. I think for you, you're really kind of in the parameters of your workplace, and you and they're the ones that get to make the rules, right? And then we are required to work within those rules here. And so I know that these are really difficult situations that we have. Sometimes, though, I think in the way that our world is, we have to learn how to flex and how do we live the gospel in a way that shows and demonstrates love to others. And maybe when we have minor inconveniences, to be able to put those inconveniences aside, to be able to create room for relationship, to be able to spark up discussions.
That's good. Okay. Jim, what would you say?
Sue, you're put in a tough spot because your belief is different than their belief. Your moral values are different than this person's moral values. But I totally do agree with what Marc is saying is, we are created in the image of God, and even a person who's struggling and has made some decisions on their own life to go against really what your values are. I think we lead with love. Jesus did that. He led with, he cared for prostitutes. He didn't agree with what they were doing. Kindness matters. He showed kindness to people who were going against him, or actually, he showed kindness to people who even literally, went against him to the end. And I think God loves people unconditionally. Given those thoughts, I think it's important for you to decide that, do you feel safe and do you feel comfortable? Because if you don't, I'm not telling you to leave, but I am saying that if this is something that is bothering you like crazy, then I think it's maybe one thought would be to literally begin to say, you know what, this is such going against so much of what I stand for that, maybe there's another job someplace else. I'm not telling you to leave. I'm just simply saying that's one option. And I've seen that in public settings all the time where people will take one form or the other. One is, Marc called it an inconvenience. It is totally an inconvenience. And I'm sure that there's other people, other nurses who are talking about this, and it's, a big hassle to them. At the same time, some people will say it's going to be an inconvenience. We're going to just do it, and there you go. Other people, and I think these people have the same integrity that you're talking about, they may have to say, this is a value that I can't live with, and I'm going to move on. And I think you got a couple of options there. I don't think I'd just leave in a huff. I wouldn't be all angry, but I would actually, make sure that if you're not feeling safe, or if you're not feeling, cared for by your authorities, then, some people would say move on.
Well, and here's where I would say the difference is, right? Because your rights matter too, Sue. So if somebody else's rights are infringing upon your rights, then you have a voice to say something. So for instance, if this person was using the female restroom that was shared, now that's infringing upon your rights. You absolutely have a right to say something. But if they're using a single-use restroom and it's just that they get to use the staff one, then that I see as more of an inconvenience, and that's where you may have to see, okay, which battle do I pick here?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it is. It's a challenge, Sue, but it's part of, like what you said, Marc, it's part of this day and age. And we do want to be respectful, but also be image bearers. And you never know how that will positively impact someone else. And that's the kind of the route we want to take. I'm going to send you a copy of 100 Days of Prayer. I think that will be encouraging to you along this journey. And we're so glad that you called. And like you said, Marc, we love nurses. We think they're great. What would we do without them? We're glad that you called. We're going to keep going to the calls, and we're going to talk with Tony, who's calling us from Boston, listens on WEZE. Hello, Tony. Thanks for calling. How can we help you today?
Thank you very much. Thanks for taking my call. My question is about my adult son. Doesn't live home. He lives with his fiancé. They get married in September. And I've noticed that he's been, maybe since early college, vaping and smoking the marijuana. And I think he also has some other addictions, which the one that concerns me really the most, because it impacts everything in your life, is if things aren't going his way, he's a very good liar. and I always get concerned with other addictions, with the DraftKings and these online things. I have no idea, but he's very immature and a lot of financial issues. I think he's in between jobs, so I'm trying to get him some help. And my question is, would see all these addiction recovery ads on TV, online about inpatient. And my question is, obviously the marijuana they could work with, but would it's better one of those places or a counselor where you see once or twice a week? I'm really concerned about the gambling issue because that pervades your life and everything you do.
Well, Tony, those are really important things that he is dealing with. Jim, let's start with you. How would you direct Tony to?
Tony, you got a
encourage
tough
his son?
situation because your son's an adult. If your son was younger and he was doing all that stuff, obviously you're in charge. You're the parent. Now that he's an adult, you've had to give your adult son the passport to adulthood, even though he's not acting like an adult. And I appreciate your concerns. A couple of thoughts generally is you're going to have to make sure that you're not enabling him. So like when you said, I'm trying to get him help, Tony, is he asking for help, or are you kind of just trying to, find some help for him without him asking you for help?
He's actually asked, but I don't know.
Yeah.
If he's really at the come to Jesus moment in terms of his problems.
Yeah. Well, because why I asked that question is because that's a big difference. If he's asking for help, great for you, because then you can say, here's some options. If he's not asking for help, then, if I was you, I would have in my back pocket where to go, a good counselor in your area or in his area that he could talk with, and you may want to suggest that in a conversation, not in the heat of the moment, but saying, hey, you've talked about this being a problem for you, Even the Bible says where there is no counsel, the people fall in the multitude of counselors there is safety. So, get him some counsel. In treatment, is a different thing. And a lot of people do really well in treatment, but they typically don't start with in treatment. They kind of start with a counselor kind of helping them through that. So if I was you, I would if you don't know where to go, I would make sure you're talking here to somebody at New Life, talk to your pastor, talk to some other people who would be good at, the addiction issues. And then when he's ready, you're there for him. But again, you don't want to enable. If you enable him, then he's not going to grow up, and he's going to be dependent on you. And I wouldn't put a lot of money into this, especially because he's, probably losing money with gambling. He's doing the lying thing. He's, smoking some pot and all the other things. Vaping is what we call it's nicotine, so you get addicted to nicotine, but it's also a drug that moves on to the next thing, and that's probably what happened to him. So I'd be ready for him. I'd become, quote unquote, the expert on how to come alongside my adult son without enabling my adult son. And there's great resources. People out there can help you. There's a counselor someplace who can help you. And I would even suggest that you have a good conversation with somebody, more than just here on the phone, but a quick conversation with somebody, maybe just a couple of assessments and say, here's what's going on. How would you suggest? And now you're getting some coaching in it. That's what I would do, Tony.
To interrupt, I think he's
Marc, how about you?
He's willing to go to a counselor or a facility for the smoking the marijuana. So maybe I was a little unclear about that.
Yeah.
And I'm more concerned about some of the other issues and where he's getting married in September. I was thinking of more an inpatient, not an inpatient, but a day program.
Yeah.
We can go 4 or 5 hours, maybe more intense for him, or at least be better given his upcoming matrimony.
No, that's actually really a good thing, because he is now concerned, and I would imagine his fiancé is concerned. Crisis is self-defined. So let's say you have more of a concern of his gambling than you do of his smoking marijuana. I mean, all those are concerns, of course. But if he says, I need help with marijuana, go. Because again, they're going to deal with all of the addiction issues. And if he does if he does the work, then he's going to have to come clean on all this stuff. And so you don't have to, find the exact, like if he would be willing to go to a counselor about marijuana, go, great, here you go. That's where actually, and this is where I'm different, because I'm saying don't, pay for your kids. But then what I am saying is if they need a head start, that's a great investment for them. On your part.
It can be a great investment. Yeah. Well, Tony, hold on. We want to hear from Marc after the break. You can hear the music. One of the challenges that we have is to be emotional free. And we're going to do our emotional freedom intensive this Saturday. It's going to be online. And in your street to be free. Saturday, it's really easy because you can join us from wherever you are. You can go to newlife.com and take the emotionally free quiz just to see how free you really are. We'll be right back.
Before coming to this weekend, I have been dealing with the guilt and shame of an abortion that I had 20 years ago. And we have 3 awesome kids. But every time I kept getting close to the Lord, kids saying to me, "You're the best mom." That voice in the back said, "You're a horrible mother. Look what you did to that child. You killed somebody. You don't deserve any of this, and you're not worthy." To help free me from my guilt and see that I would not make the same decision today, I would make a different decision, and I am a great mom, and God can use me.
This is Steve Arterburn, and this is the story of a new life. After 20 years of guilt and shame, she attended a workshop and now is free. You can be part of offering hope to others as you step out in faith by donating to New Life Ministries.
To make your tax-deductible gift, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE or visit newlife.com and click Donate. Daniel Grossman on coaching.
Coaches are really focused on the future and helping people to develop those skills and those strategies to help them move forward in their life. A coach really partners with you to focus on things like personal growth or health goals, spiritual growth, helping you develop in your career or possibly strengthening your relationships or maybe even breaking free from a negative pattern.
If you need a coach for life, your career, relationships, your health and fitness, leadership, and more, call New Life today and ask about the New Life Coaching Network. Our coaches have been trained and screened with the same intensive process we use for our network counselors.
Coaches use different techniques. Some like to use strategic questions and accountability, ultimately empowering you to take those next steps toward your goals.
Take control of your life and take action to achieve your goals. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and talk to us about getting a New Life coach today.
I really believe that everyone can use a coach in their corner.
1-800-NEW-LIFE. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. This is Marc Cameron. I'm on with Jim Burns, and we're talking with Tony, and Tony is telling us about his adult son who's living with his fiancé. He's got some addictions. He's vaping with marijuana. He's also concerned about his son's lying and gambling, and he's wanting to know the best approach for his son. Should he be paying for his son to do some kind of in-center rehab? And so, Tony, I just kind of want to follow up on what Jim was saying here. Jim was talking about coming alongside your son, and I think that is really key here, because oftentimes when we see our kids, we want to jump in and we want to rescue them. And really, we need to allow the consequences to happen to really be the teacher. And sometimes we need to allow the crisis, which can be really hard. It's almost like watching a train crash and not changing the tracks when you could. But it's realizing that we're not the ones who create the crisis. We allow the crisis to happen to bring them to a place where they're on their knees. And I think coming alongside is helping somebody as they demonstrate accountability too, right? And so that they should always be working harder, and then you're alongside like a coach. They're doing the work and you're cheering them on, and maybe you can help them, navigate an obstacle. And as Jim was saying here, pay for something, but they really need to be willing to do it. And I'm hearing what you're talking about too here, concerned about the matrimony that he has coming up. And he is an adult, but there's two people here. And I think you get to give your concerns. You get to go to your son and say, these are my concerns. If you don't fix these problems, how they might impact your marriage. But you also get to go and talk to his fiancée, because she's your future daughter-in-law. She's going to be your daughter, and you get to speak to her and tell her about the concerns too here. And but ultimately they're adults and they're going to have to make their decisions, and you just may have to be on the sidelines to help encourage and when they're ready to reach out to you here. So I think we're going to send you a copy here, Tony, of Take Your Life Back, and maybe that can be helpful for you and helpful to your son here. We're going to go to the next call here. And I think we're going to go to Hazel, who's calling from Johnson City, Tennessee, and listens on Sirius XM. Hi, Hazel. How can we help you today?
Hi, how are you?
Good, good.
Okay. I just kind of have a question about, I am divorced, and I have two grown children that are doing well, but I have an older brother and a younger brother, and we all live in the same city. We've been raised in a very strong, wonderful Christian home. My father's deceased. My mother's 94. Just went into assisted living back in the fall, but she's, still has her mind and doing well. My brothers, one is married, no children. My younger brother never has married. And when I went through my divorce, because I had my ex-husband at the time, husband at the time now, and then ex-husband, and then he's now deceased. He had an alcohol problem, which eventually did kill him, but there was alcohol and some pornography addiction. So I got the children, as all of that unfolded and had progressed, when my children were much younger, got them out of that situation. And my brothers, especially my younger brother, started to take on this role that they were almost a parent. Mm-hmm. And as my children got older, both of my brothers became overly involved from the standpoint that they did a lot of things and left me completely out. And especially as my children reached the age of, where they could communicate with them on their own through, calling them on cell phones or texting them, their father was never able to be, or able, due to all of his problems, overly involved. So I had to go back to work. I got them both through college by working at the university here, and with their scholarships and all. My son's a medical school graduate, and now in residency. My daughter has three, advanced degrees. She's a teacher and has I have two precious grandchildren.
So your kids are grown, and your husband died, and your two brothers jumped in to kind of help you raise the kids.
He didn't die. Well, he didn't die until they were older. My brothers jumped in anyway, but not to get too bogged down in that. They just took over, but cutting me out. They both have seemed to kind of, now that the kids are older, they still just don't include me. And
what do you mean by that, Hazel? When you say that they don't include you, they invite your adult kids to things, and they don't invite you?
They communicate with them, and they just kind of don't really communicate with me. But they also, now we've worked fairly well where my mom is concerned and her, her care. But as far as my children, I think the bigger issue is the way that especially my younger brother treats me. Now, they've been very ugly to me in front of my kids, using profanity to me, putting me down, I'm never positive enough, I'm never this, I'm never that, because I've been the one that's had to be the parent. They don't have to be.
So we're coming up to the break here. Hazel, what's your question for us that we can think about and answer when we come back?
Deal with my younger brother who keeps telling me that I'm mentally ill and that I need help and I've got issues, and putting me down continually. Mm-hmm. And turning impacting our whole family dynamic. is what I'm trying to learn to deal with.
All right. We will be right back here. 1-800-229-3000.
For most of my life, I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit its addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found Life Recovery, and one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 Steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 Steps' power comes from the fact that they capture principles clearly revealed in the Bible.
The 12 steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back to New Life. This is Marc Cameron. I'm on here with Jim Burns. And we know that sometimes when we are recording, it's hard for others to call in with their question. And so we want to be able to get to those questions if you can't call in while we're recording. So we've set up a line that you can leave your contact information and your question. And it's 888-NEW-LIFE or 888-639-5433. Right now, we're speaking to Hazel. Hazel's having some challenges with a younger brother that she has who is stepping in and overstepping his boundaries, putting her down. And Jim, what would you say to Hazel here in her situation?
Well, Hazel, first of all, I'd say, wow, you did a great job with your kids. They became adults. They're responsible adults. And that's something to really celebrate in the midst of this. And it hasn't been easy with your husband, ex-husband, and whatnot. But way to go! I mean, those kids sound like. And again, you'd like more time with them. I don't know that there's a parent who has adult children on the planet that doesn't say, "Oh, I wish my adult kids would spend more time with you." No, there probably are who would say they spend too much time with me. But a lot of, I mean, my wife and I, we oftentimes are like, "Oh, I wish we had more time with them. I wish they would talk to us," or in a good way. Let's talk the good side first. In a good way, your brothers sound like they did a good job. Now, you said overly, but they also were there for them. And, you know, we have relationships with people that my kids text with or talk to that they don't always talk to us. And we've had to embrace that in some ways. Now, let's go to the younger brother.
Can I
please.
say something real quick? They have not been there, and I don't, in the way they should have been.
Okay.
They have not been good male role models.
Got it. Okay.
I feel like my son especially has not had a strong male role model that he saw respect me. My ex-husband was very narcissistic and put me down continually. And I've been through quite a bit of counseling, and a counselor pointed out to me that my brothers picked up right where my ex-husband left off. See, all they've done is put me down to my children. Yeah. For example, my son decided to move in with his girlfriend, now fiancé, which I was very much opposed to. He wasn't raised like that, and I was hoping my brothers would have stepped in and been the correct male role model, which they were not. They supported
I understand now. Sure.
Yes. So
Okay.
I'm dealing with this, seeing some narcissistic
Yes.
behavior, I feel like, in my younger brother now.
Yeah.
And I'm to the point I think I'm going to have to, I guess I'm asking you all, I'm very loyal to family and friends, and I'm having some guilt on like where I've got to set my boundaries to keep this toxic relationship from impacting me and what I consider my nuclear family with my son and daughter.
Yeah, okay.
And
Makes a lot more
know.
sense then. Yeah. Nevertheless, I still hold true that I think you raised your kids in a good way, and it's always sad if your kids are going to violate values, and sounds like they are. Okay, you used the word boundaries. And actually, Marc used the word boundaries at the beginning of this. And, I would suggest that you sit with that counselor that's helping you and say, okay, how do I set up some healthy boundaries? Because, again, sometimes our loyalty to family and our loyalty to, like you mentioned, loyalty to family and friends, sometimes that becomes toxic in our own way. And so make sure that you have set up some of those boundaries that can help you. And at the same time, your younger brother and you may have to actually, really set up some stronger boundaries with him, and so that you can work, in relationship with your kids. Now, when an adult child violates your values, they moved in with the fiance, etc. I always say to people, do they know what you believe? Do they know how you feel? Yes. Okay. So they know that, but don't become the one-topic parent. I'm not saying you're doing that, but we have to be very careful because our heart is breaking because of some of those choices. Set up boundaries with your especially younger brother. Don't expect him to take over. He didn't do the job you were hoping. He, as your counselor said, kind of just kept on with the what their father had done. So he's not he's not the guy. So that doesn't mean that you can't, at Christmas and Thanksgiving and certain things, and I realize you live in the same area, but you can still be kind, but make sure you have boundaries are more than just, I'm not going to talk to you at this time, but boundaries are also bringing people around you who can lift you up from your church and other places, because you need some people who are speaking into you in a big way. I'll let Marc take over from you.
Yeah. And I think how I would start with a boundary here, Hazel, is having this conversation, and you may have had the conversation already with your brother, but if you're going to set up a boundary is a limit line that if somebody crosses, there's going to be a consequence. And so I think it's fair to tell somebody what the boundary is going to be. So once you've established what your boundaries are going to be, invite your brother to have a conversation. And here's how I would start it. I would invite him to listen first. Say you've got something important to share. Will he be willing to listen first? And then you will give him space to respond afterwards. And if he can agree to that, then that's when you share your concern. This is my concern. I don't like how you speak to me. It hurts my feelings. I'm going to make a request that you speak to me in this way only. And if that can't happen, then this is what's going to be my boundary. And that could be limiting your exposure and your relationship with him. And so that's how I'd start that conversation.
What do you do when you've done that? I've done that on more than one occasion with him and tried to sit down, and even sometimes in the past, my mom had been there. He either does not open his mouth at all, but I've even said to him one time years ago, would he be willing to go to counseling with me? And he refused. And then whenever I bring this up, he said, you're just a victim. You're always a victim in everything. And it's always about you. So, it's like when I try to do that, and I agree with you, that would be great if he would listen. But when I try to do that, he attacks me further and puts me down more. Like, you're mentally ill. You need to be having help.
Hazel, that's when you then hold your boundary. I think if you try and have a conversation with somebody and it doesn't go very well and you've been reasonable, that's where you're going to have to hold your boundary, and you may have to limit your relationship with him. Here's what we're going to do is we're going to send you a copy of Every Woman's Bible, and we're going to be praying for your situation here with your brother.
Thank you.
Thanks for calling.
I really appreciate this. Thank you.
Thanks, Hazel. Okay, we're going to go to Patty next. Patty is calling from Woodbridge, Virginia, and she listens on WAVA. Hi, Patty. How can we help you?
Hi. Oh, I need guidance with having a difficult conversation with my adult children.
Well, we've got the right guy here for you, Jim Burns.
I know. I've read your book. You're a rock star, and I'm a fan. I'm a groupie.
You and my mom. That means there's two, my mom and you.
Well, that's very. I don't agree with you. Your mom, yeah, but there's a lot of others than just that. My kids are all grown. My husband passed away in 2019, so I live in my big house. It was good for a family, 5 bedrooms, 3.5 baths. It's paid for. I don't have any interest in moving at the moment. I live here with my dog and my cat. So I'll give, that's not that important. But my question is, 2 of my kids are on the West Coast and 2 are on the East Coast. One is quite local, within 50 miles. The other is in a couple of 100 miles. I really get my feelings hurt when I see the one who is further away. Well, North Carolina, I'm in Virginia. That's vague enough. They put pictures on Facebook of going to his mother-in-law's house with the other children. Oh, we cleaned the yard, we built a shed, we did all this for Jane, very common name, so I don't want to, anyway. But what do they do for Mom up here? From my point of view, not a darn thing. But the reason that prompted my call at this time, this Friday night, my son, who lives in the city, I live more in a suburban community, is coming down to spend the night because on Saturday, the 2 East Coast sons are taking me to a magnificent dream for place for my birthday, which was in December, but we couldn't go then, so they're taking me now. It's really wonderful. I'm really excited. But my son, who lives close by, he goes and visits his stepmom and does stuff for her. He goes and visits his partner's dad. His partner died in COVID, and he does stuff for him. He visits him every Saturday. Now, my son works in a huge law office, and his killer hours. He really does. But, I mean, I said to him, hey, son, can you help me with, I hear the music, can you help me do my passport? He goes, no, that's a lot of work. Do it yourself.
So, Patty, what's your question here? Is it how you deal with rejection and being left out from your kids?
How could I express to them more how I feel? First of all, I'd break down and cry because my feelings are hurt. And
we're going to be right back, Patty.
We all face days where life throws us a curveball and our routines or plans get disrupted. Things we wanted to do are forced to take a backseat to the unexpected demands of the day. If you normally listen to New Life Live on a radio station, well, you might not be able to that day. And on these hectic days when you're feeling stressed or frazzled, hearing the sound of counsel given on New Life Live is just what you need to navigate the unexpected things of life.
Every time I'm troubled or I have a problem, I'll cut on New Life, and there's always something that is said that is helpful to me.
By listening, I have learned more than I can ever express about how God wants me to live.
Download the New Life app for the easiest way to listen wherever you are and at a time that's convenient for you, or watch the show on our YouTube channel. You can even subscribe to our podcast from your favorite podcast provider. You never have to miss a day of New Life. Wherever you are, we are.
I have given to New Life regularly because I have so many people that I am referring to New Life who so benefit from the ministry. I just can't imagine what would happen in my area if New Life wasn't available to us.
You can help New Life Live stay on the air by joining Club New Life today. When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, we'll send you the new member thank you gift of all 8 100-day devotionals, including 100 Days of Prayer, 100 Days of Freedom from Depression, and 100 Days of Peace. There are also ongoing benefits like the monthly Club New Life CD or download, access to the Club New Life video library, quarterly resources, free shipping on purchased resources, discounts on workshops, and quarterly online meetings with Steve. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Support Club New Life, and together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. This is Marc Cameron. I'm on with Jim Burns. And if you are on hold, keep waiting. We're going to get to you. We've got another show. And if you want to call in too, it's 1-800-229-3000. Right now we're talking with Patty, and Patty has grown kids. Her husband died in 2019. She's got 2 kids on the East Coast and 2 kids on the West Coast. And one of her sons who lives close to her posts pictures online, and she's feeling a little bit left out and rejected. Jim, what would you say to Patty here?
Well, Patty, I'm sorry for that. And I find that a lot of people who have adult children do have these experiences that you're having. And I think the statement about not helping on the passport, he could have been softer and kinder. That's a tough one. I honestly, that's like getting slapped in the face.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, they're doing an amazing thing for you this weekend. And so I'm one who thinks that when that happens, cheer them on. Thank you so much. And honestly, I wouldn't say, too much about the negativity. I would simply say, I love this. I would love to do this more often. How can we have more moments like these? And obviously, this is a biggie. I mean, you're going to a really neat thing. But, let them know that without saying, poor me, because nobody wants to then take care of poor you. I'm not saying you're doing that. But if you do that.
I hear you, though.
But so I think it's more, hey, how can I serve you? I find that in a situation, especially with the one who's just, within 50 miles or even 100 miles, take the lead. You sound, you have a, you have a great, you still have a great attitude about life, etc. So this is where I would say, hey, I want to come by. I want to see the kids, and I'm bringing cookies. When can I do that? Or whatever it is. I'm making this up, but you see what I'm saying. Be that person that literally you're so positive about them and helping them. Again, you'd like them to come your way. You'd like them to take care of you. They're not doing a good job with that. But even then, when they see you as kind of the quote unquote, cheerleader to them, or the person who's coming alongside, if there was babysitting that needed to be done or whatever, you didn't talk much about the the grandkids situation, but if there was things like that, then that helps greatly. It's a raw deal. As we get older, we should have our kids taking care of us and coming and visiting and taking care of the passport and all that. That doesn't happen as much as I'd like. So, do it reverse. It's when the Bible talks about, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I find sometimes when you become that source of positivity, that source of really coming alongside them in kindness, that they sometimes then will repay because they want to be with you. They sound like pretty neat people because they are helping out with some of all these other people. And so, you take the lead and care without doing too much moaning and groaning about it. Simply saying, I'd love this. I'd like more.
Oh, that's great. I needed to hear that. Thank you.
Good. Well, I think Jim gave you great advice here, Patty. And we're going to send you the book, How to Have a Difficult Conversation by John Townsend. But thanks so much for calling in here. Okay, we got time for one more call. We are going to go to Jane in Washington, D.C., also listens on WAVA. Jane, we've got about 5 minutes here, just at the end of the show. How can we help you?
Oh, well, I guess with the people who came before me going through some of the things I'm going through, but my biggest dilemma, how does a mother let go when a son has had a difficult life with a father that he never came up to par with, and he's very depressed to the point of me hearing him focusing on possible, like do I commit suicide slowly or difficultly, and spends most of the time on a screen, either cell phone or iPad.
Jane, how old is your son?
37.
37.
Yeah.
So are you saying that your son is having active suicidal ideations?
That's what seems to, yeah, and I don't know, like, how can I, do I press the button? Do I cause it because I care? Do I cause it because I don't know the answer. I don't know.
How long ago did his dad pass away here, Jane?
Oh, his dad now has been gone probably about 6 years.
6 years. Okay, so it's been a while here, and it sounds like your son's been in a deep depression, stuck in a deep depression for a while now. And anytime somebody is threatening or making statements along the lines that they no longer want to live or they want to kill themselves, we want to take those things very, very seriously. Jim, what would you say?
Jane, I see two things in terms of your conversation. One is that you are wondering how to let your son go, and at the same time it was suicide. That's a whole. If you were just talking about letting your son go and becoming, the adult and holding on to some of those responsibilities, that's one thing. But I want to focus on the suicide. I would make sure that he gets help. You have to take it seriously.
But I've tried, but he won't go. I mean, I have a therapist that we used to go to when his dad was alive, but he won't go, and I'm scared.
Right. No, and the fear of a mother, your love for your son comes through in such a huge way. If somebody is going to kill themselves, they typically need a time and a place and a method. This is kind of simple as you look at suicide things. And, I honestly would have a conversation with him because it sounds so crazy. But you know what? If you say this to your son, it doesn't mean he's going to go, oh, wow, maybe I'll go do this. He's already talking about it. Well, do you have a time or do you have a place or a method? Have you talked through this? Because he started talking methodology to you when he said, would I do it slow? Would I do it whatever? He's struggling. He's probably got some mental illness that's going on, to be honest.
Right, so he didn't hear me. He didn't know I heard him talking out loud to himself.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah,
does he live with you?
Out loud to himself.
Does he live with you?
He lives with me, and he doesn't want to. And when his dad left, he's been my support all the time. But now he drinks like we went out to a Mexican restaurant. He drank like 3 tequila beers or something. Then he had a big old daiquiri thing, frozen stuff. I mean, like drinking all this liquor and eating bad food.
Yeah. Well, he's medicating that pain that he has. The best thing you can do as a mom is to help him get the help he needs, and he needs to talk to a professional, especially because of the suicide thing. And I would even say, like when he was talking to himself and he was talking about suicide, I wouldn't hide that. I would simply say, hey, I heard you talking to yourself, and I'm really worried about this. Is this the time to talk?
Yeah, but just the other night, I'd go downstairs where he's watching TV, and on the screen is one of them Japanese programs, and this man is laying on the ground, this animated thing, this man is laying on the ground with bullet holes in him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, no, God, no.
Yeah, no, I mean, two things. One is you've got to make sure you're taking care of your own fears, because seeing that when a mom sees a son make some poor choices, that's devastating. So make sure you have people around you, and make sure you're still talking to that therapist, and I hope the therapist is helping you, because that you definitely need that. With him, to be honest, you can't make the decision for him. He's an adult, but you can offer the help and the concern by saying, I heard you talk about suicide. You're kind of talking to yourself. We live in the same house, so things like that happen. Is there any way I could help convince you to go talk with someone and get an assessment on how you're doing? An assessment doesn't mean that he has to go into long-term counseling or he has to go into some kind of an in-treatment. An assessment is simply that somebody would take one time with him and do an assessment on how he's doing. That's what I do.
We're going to be praying for you here, Jane. This is a really tough situation. We're going to send you the book, Doing Life with Adult Children. Thank you to all of our listeners who called in. Hang on if you're still on the phone. We're going to get to you in the next show.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again tomorrow for New Life Live.
Thanks for watching today. We love helping people. I hope you sense that. And we know that there's always hope if you find the right resource. Now, if something we've said to somebody else applies to you, that's fantastic. That's what we're hoping for. But also, if you want to join us directly, you can call 1-800-229-3000 between 1 and 3 Eastern Time, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Those are the best times to get through. And while you're here on YouTube, check out these other videos that we've done to help people see where they could grow or a different path to take. And if you do that, would you give us a thumbs up on the video, and please subscribe to this channel. There are many ways that we can help you outside of the radio program, and it's very hard for some to pick up a phone and dial 1-800-NEW-LIFE. But when you do, we put you in touch with somebody who cares about you, knows all the resources out there, and they're going to find the best for you. There is no reason to struggle alone. I hope to see you tomorrow. Hope you'll invite somebody else to come and join that maybe needs just a little bit of help along the way. I'll see you next time.